Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Elementary. A fantastic season finale. Holy crap, we got to break this down about all the craziness that went down. So basically, Joan is being brought in by Malik, and it's so interesting to me because we never actually got to find out why Malik was so intent on bringing Joan down. Obviously, I did like the element of being like, oh, potentially it could be Malik that was behind the murder and everything, but the fact is, like, she was so gung-ho about it being Joan. It's like, well, what about Joan's alibi? She was at her parents' house. Yes, but her stepdad wasn't there. Her mom was there, and as we know, plot-wise, her mom has dementia, so she's an unreliable source in that regard, which that sucks. Doesn't matter how much people throw up about her character and stuff like that she would never do something like that. That's why I was kind of like, why is Malik so up in her butt? Like, I guess maybe, that's something that came up. Maybe she is legitimately looking out for the case of, like, because Michael is dead, there can be no justice for all the family members of all the other victims that he had that might not, they'll never know the truth. That was taken from them, why she's going after Joan so hard. I think it also fits with the whole aspect, and it's something she kind of brings up later on, is the fact is that she doesn't like the way Joan and Sherlock operate, the way they kind of cut corners, because she tries to throw that at, like, Belle, too. She's like, yeah, like, I know you're trying to talk to the U.S. Marshals. I'm going to go throw a full-blown investigation into all the cases you've worked with Miss Watson, and any kind of discrepancies will come up, and kind of screw over his chance of getting the U.S. Marshals. But nevertheless, he still helps out. Even when he can. Gregson can, because it's like, oh yeah, he's tied up in everything too, but it's like I love Sherlock willing to do whatever it takes, because for him it's like, because at points, like, Watson was kind of like, seeing that he's pushing things forward and trying to do stuff, and she's like, Sherlock, and he's like, don't tell me to stop. Do you not realize what is happening here? You are literally on the verge of being charged with murder. This could change everything, and the fact is, it's like, I won't let you get hurt again. That's, that's why he's taking it so personal, because not only just because he cares about Watson, because he feels like he failed Watson the last episode. It's like, you were hurt because of me, because of my failure. I will not fail you again, Watson. I promise you that. And so that's why he's willing to do whatever it takes. He's willing to cross whatever line. Because he even made Gregson clear that he's like, I can't help, it's like, be patient. He's like, I can't do that, So we end up finding out that Graham's father, Curtis, is connected to this, which that's kind of interesting how that kind of all ties together. I mean, it makes sense. Like, that's connected to the whole Michael thing. But him being like, yeah, whoever did it was a hero. Because it's interesting to me, because I feel like, I guess it's not public knowledge that Joan is like the top number one suspect, because he would have been, because it's just the way his demeanor, the way he answered that kind of makes you go, okay, so he does know about it. It's kind of interesting because it turns out like, oh yeah, the reason why, like, the trash around Michael's body was from Queens, even though he was dumped in Harlem, I think is what the whole situation was. But it's like, in actuality, his body was brought to the trucks. It's a whole thing. Then you had like the security footage going missing, and it's like, oh, who came in? Like, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, but it's like, I'm going to bring this up, like, well, go ahead and bring it up. It was Gregson. The moment it happened, Gregson, I was like, the moment stuff started, I was like, wait, it wasn't Malik. And I was like, wait, it was a regular cop. I was like, is it? And they're talking Gregson. I was like, it is Hannah. Like, part of me, as the episode was going on, even the little opening when they introduced, I was like, right, Hannah would have motive to do it. It's like, no way it's Hannah. There's no way. It's like, no, it was Hannah. I was like, that shocked me. Because if you listen to the last recording, I was dead certain it was going to be Moriarty, just because she's connected to all this, and because like she popped back up into the story and everything, and she's very protective of Watson, so I thought maybe that's what it was. But then, to be fair, if she was going to do something like that, she would make sure it's in a situation that wouldn't turn back on Watson. So obviously this whole situation, because it was kind of interesting to me, because I thought William was dead. The dude that he was trying to call, the whole recording that caught up, and he said Joan's name. It's basically because he was injured and he was bleeding out of his, like, he couldn't see because his eye was injured, and he just assumed it was Joan just because he saw a lady about Joan's size, and, it was dark and everything. So, because plus he was injured too, but it's like, man, that's crazy. And that was like one of the main things against her. But also you can admit, it's kind of like, yeah, you can tell Malik was kind of going about it kind of in a douchebaggy way, because she was like so like hardcore about going after Joan, but at the same time, it's always those situations you got to bring up in crime dramas. It's like, no, it's because we love and adore Joan that we don't appreciate you. It's because it's one of the main characters. If it wasn't one of the main characters, would I really feel the same way? Probably not. But because it's Joan in particular, you know? And it sucks, especially that confrontation with Gregson. That was so heartbreaking. I was like, I can't believe he covered that up for her. Because the reason why I bring that up is because it's like, he's always kind of got on Sherlock about Sherlock handling things the way he did. And like when the time came, you did something like that. Like he's always supposed to be, because he's always kind of been like the most moral compass of them all. He's been such a great friend and ally and always trying to on a straight and narrow. And for him to do something like that, to be fair, once again, it's his daughter. How can you fault him for that? To be fair, it's like, it's not like he knew everything was going to fall on Joan like that. With Sherlock, is like, is that supposed to make things better? You got to turn Hannah in. But it's like, no, that's my daughter. I can't, don't worry. There's no evidence against Malik. But for Sherlock, he brings up amazing points. It's like you act like that means a damn thing, because it's like, this will ruin everything for Watson. Even being accused of being a murderer, do you think she could work as a consultant? Her reputation will be destroyed, you know? And it's something he brings up to her later on that didn't get brought up in the conversation with him. But it's like, she's trying to adopt to become a mother. Do you think she'll be able to do that if she's an accused murderer? You know, and it's just kind of like, and Gregson getting so pissed and trying to throw everything at Sherlock. It's like, oh, it's all your fault. You're the one that brought Michael into this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that is such a dick move to make, you know? He made a mistake. He already beating himself up about it enough. Last thing he needs is you adding more to it. And he's like, Hannah, it's my daughter. And then Sherlock's like, and she's my best friend, you know, talking about Watson. I'm like, dude, that sucks. I mean, because that's also, but Watson being who she is, it wasn't about Hannah, it was about Gregson, because Gregson has been there. He's been such an integral part of their lives that she didn't want to betray him because he would get in trouble for all of this as well. But Sherlock's like, the fact of the matter is, doing this, like, no matter what happens going forward, because she's willing to take the chances, because she's like, obviously Malik must not have enough evidence, but Sherlock is like, look at all this stuff she has stapled against you. Things do not look good. If you take this chance, there's a chance you will go down for this. And it's like, you shouldn't be punished for something you didn't do. Because it's interesting, I skipped over it, but there's a whole conversation you had at the beginning of the episode. I thought it was kind of interesting. Like, you actually even had to ask Watson if she did it, but he's like, did you do it? Like, if you did it, I wouldn't blame you. The fact of the matter is, I would do everything in my power to make sure you got away with it. And she's like, did you do it? He's like, no, if I did it, I would tell you. She's like, you didn't think I'd tell you? It's like, okay, good. So now we can, add ourselves to like the I didn't kill Michael Rowan club. So I thought it was kind of interesting. Which is something, once again, that's why Sherlock can understand where Gregson is coming from. It's still frustrating to him because it's like, Hannah created this situation by doing things her way. Like, this isn't how we handle things. Once again, it's like, he's kind of talked about that. That's not the way you handle things. But it's like, what do you do? Because how does Gregson handle that going forward? Because no matter what, there's always going to be a guilt inside of you and Hannah. Like, Hannah probably won't be, like, Hannah's kind of already in a bad place after everything that happened. But on top of that, knowing that Joan and Sherlock are getting swept up in her mistake, Gregson knowing the same thing, that their lives are kind of turned upside down because of him. And, Bell probably doesn't know the truth. Like, he's kind of left out of the loop in that. But even if James kind of went away, like, even if it was all said and done, their relationship with Gregson and Bell would never be the same. Not necessarily Bell, but they could never step foot in that precinct again because, like, there would always be that animosity, that distrust from Gregson because they know that secret that they can't really tell anyone because they don't want to destroy his life and his career, but it's just like he's screwing over Watson by doing what he's doing, and it's just Sherlock did the one thing he could. He talked to Hannah and was like, you're going to confess. I was like, the way he was talking, I was like, are you about to do? I was like, once again, I was like, oh, in no shape or form did it ever go to the Moriarty situation. I guess it's like you can't really go to her for help. Like I said, I guess that's just, like I said, a situation all on its own. But nevertheless, Sherlock confesses to the murder. And even when it's all said and done, Malik is like, oh, I hope you're happy, Watson, you got away with murder. And she's not even really concerned about all that. What she's concerned about is the fact that Sherlock decided to do this. He made a deal that basically he can never come back to the States. He makes MI6 kind of like say that he was part of some operation for the Queen and stuff like that. So he can't be tried like during this whole situation in the US. So, but once he leaves and goes to England, there's no coming back. Like, their partnership is dissolved. Because, like, when it was all said and done, Watson was like, because Sherlock was like, we're supposed to be partners. And she's like, we are partners. So be my partner in this situation. Kind of having her back in this, but he didn't, because for him, he knew, like, because he couldn't take the chance for Watson to throw away her entire life. Like, if he has to fall on the sword, he'll fall on the sword. Yes, it may have cost him some stuff like that, but it cost Watson so much more. He's literally the only one in this situation amongst Gregson, Hannah, and Watson who had a piece to play that would allow them not to serve any jail time for this situation. So, and I love that whole aspect of, like, you didn't know, but like 6 years ago when we met, I was dying. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be with his whole sobriety and everything, or even the thought that it could get better. But Watson brought that into his life, that he is here where he is now because of Watson, and he's thanking her and everything. She's kind of like, no, don't, he's saying, like, I had to say goodbye to you and everything, but she's like, I thought we were partners. And he's like, no, we're not. We're more than partners. We're two people who love each other. We always have, man. And I'm like, no! And he's walking out the door. I'm like, dude, like, where do you go from there? Then we skip to 6 months later with him back in England, and he's complaining about the noise and everything. Part of my brain went, no, is this like his concussion thing coming back? Is it messing with his head or something? I'm like, or it's just not as, he talked about the walls. Like, I literally couldn't hear anything. The dude he was talking to couldn't hear anything. But I guess it's like because he got so used to the brownstone all those years, he did kind of get a little sensitive to it. It's kind of interesting because when you actually look at that, it's very reminiscent of season 3, because that's kind of how things played out in season 3. Like, obviously him and Joan kind of went separate ways. Obviously not for long, but eventually, like, Sherlock and Kitty eventually, came to New York, wasn't that season 4? I think so. Yeah. Or was that like the beginnings of season? I think that was tying into season 3, I think. Nevertheless. Either way. And then he goes next door. I was like, is she going to pop up and be there? And he's going to be shocked. It's like, no, he knows. Like, she's been living there for a while. He's like, I invited, you, since you said you wanted to live here. She's like, when you invited me. And he's like, well, okay, let's get to work. And I'm like, yes! It's like, I was so glad that was an option, because it's like, he can't go back to the States, so she's going there. I mean, I guess because for her, it's also because it's like, well, being in the States probably isn't good for her too, because she's always going to have Malik holding that above her head about everything and being like, oh yeah, you got away with murder, blah, 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 blah. Besides, she couldn't, like, there'd be no reason to stay behind either, because like the whole situation with Gregson, like I said, it'd just be weird and awkward, and it does make you wonder. It has been 6 months, so maybe things work with Belle. Which I guess the argument could be made, it's good that Belle gets out of there, because Gregson being in this situation he is right now, Belle doesn't want to be around that. So, but I love the whole thing of like, he's like, oh, you're kind of a terrible partner and everything as they're walking down the streets. And she's like, oh, but you said we're two people who love each other. And he's like, I only said that because I never thought we'd see each other again. So I thought that was kind of like pretty nice, sweet, and cute. So a very nice way to kind of wrap up the season. I could be 100% wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure this has already been renewed for a 7th season. Which, yeah, just checking things to make sure has been 100% renewed for a 7th season. So I'm excited to see what this means. Like, this means that the cast is going to be changing a little bit, and obviously the cases going forward. Like, I'm guessing we're completely done with New York. I mean, there might be stuff that ties them back, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting because let's not forget, like, the whole thing with Moriarty was in New York, so that's probably going to transport over now that she knows that he's in England. Because that's also, like I said, that's a storyline that was brought up, but I'm guessing that's going to be season 7's potential main storyline. Is the whole Moreland Cabal and Moriarty war that's coming. I mean, to be fair, that's kind of put at a stalemate right now anyway, so maybe that is something we won't really see kind of pop up anymore because of that whole aspect. Because it is in that stalemate position, so... But we'll see. Like, I'm very interested to see what they do. Like I said, it's so crazy because it's like, you kind of got a feeling anyway, because the way the story was kind of set up, especially when it came to Belle, you'd probably be saying goodbye to him anyway. And also eventually things would change anyway, because Watson and Sherlock wouldn't be able to stay there forever, because things would change with Gregson, which they kind of already have. So it's like things have kind of already started moving in that direction faster than they kind of wanted them to anyway. So it's kind of the way you kind of feel like things are going to always be. I also love the line from Watson. Sherlock's like, I don't know how what's it going to be like for us going forward. And Watson's like, I feel like this is where we're supposed to be. Which is like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Right where you're supposed to be in England and everything. So I thought that was pretty nice. So I'm curious to see, like I said, everything going forward, like with them, Like I said, this played out so differently than I even imagined in my head. Like the Michael stuff, like I brought up last episode, kind of played out similarly to how I thought, but that's still like, even this did not play out the way I thought it was. I thought at the end Gregson would make the sacrifice and be like, yeah, Hannah did. It's like, no, because no matter how much he cares about Watson, Hannah is his daughter, and there's that. Like I said, I don't know. Like I said, these might be characters we hear about a little bit in the background. Maybe there'll be some stuff that comes up, but this is probably the last time we'll ever hear of a lot of those characters. I'd also forgot, I thought it was kind of a nice little funny thing, was like they got help from everyone, and Watson's like, all they wanted me to do was bring down one of your beehives, so it's kind of like one of your bee cages, so it's okay. And he's like, yeah, one of the founding fathers of everyone is aroused by bees, so you just literally put on a show for him and everything. And then Watson kind of feels disgusted a little bit, but it's like, we need their help, so I'm just gonna let it play out, So I thought it was kind of pretty neat. So I personally feel like this is the most positive, well, one of the most positive endings this show has had, because a lot of their other finales have kind of been like a little like cliffhangery in some regards, which is some crazy stuff. Like obviously I feel like this is one of the more positive ones. I feel like season 1 had a pretty positive one outcome. I'm trying to think about any others. Like, I mean, it's just some depressing crap associated, but I feel like out of anything, this is kind of the least depressing route to a certain degree. It's still the whole aspect of you leaving your life behind, but because let's not forget Watson's whole family is still in the U.S. too. So, I mean, to be fair, she could go back anytime she wants to kind of check up on them, but Sherlock's kind of stuck where he is. Who knows? Maybe something will come up in season 7 that kind of helps reverse a lot of that potentially. Maybe, like I said, maybe things with Hannah, because like I said, because we already know she already kind of struggles with alcoholism. Like, I'm not hoping for it or anything like that, but I feel like this is something that's going to eat away at her, the guilt, and Gregson's going to try and make it better, but Gregson being there will most likely just make it worse because it's just a constant reminder of what she did. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm very interested to see what they do with season 7. Especially when it comes to the whole situation of Sherlock and Watson, because there's also the whole family dynamic of in particular, she wants to be a mom and everything, and that's always kind of been a thing of will there be a her and Sherlock thing? They love each other, but in what way does that love go? It is a partnership, a friendship, and just a constance in each other's life. Doesn't mean it's going to be a relationship type of thing, which we know. Well, no, because let's not forget he's in a relationship with wasn't it Athena? Isn't that her name? What's going to happen with that? I mean, to be fair, maybe she can travel around. I mean, he has resources and stuff like that. So that's just something. I mean, to be fair, we don't know how that really worked out or not, because he was oh, we can test that out, So I'm very interested to see how what would that mean going forward with that too. I just thought about that. That'd be kind of interesting. Like I say, because I don't think it might be a romantic thing necessarily. It is just kind of we're two very important people to each other, and we love each other in that regard. We're family essentially, or it might be in a more intimate type of way too. I like I said, I never know. I've always interpreted it as there being an intimate thing between them, but now it's kind of it might be one of those things where it's kind of beyond that. It's just we care about each other and just kind of leave it at that. Who needs labels and stuff like that? So it does make you wonder about a lot of that stuff going forward. What would that mean? Because I always assumed if she was going to have kids, it'd probably most likely be Sherlock, because I was under the impression Sherlock might oh, supply my DNA because I'm so smart and we want your child to have the best chance, something like that. But to be fair, it's the whole process they're going through is adoption anyway, so it's just, I don't know, there was just something kind of rattling off in my head last minute. I was shut up at this point in time, so I do apologize. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good